Over the past couple of weeks, moderate Democrats have faced backlash and protest over their support for impeaching Donald Trump. Seems that many people were expecting a focus on policy issues and bridging the divide, not making the divide worse. But now we have a word of encouragement from Democrats. Because according to an internal polling memo, they're telling moderate Democrats they are more likely to get a vote if they support impeachment than if they don't. But I believe this is a huge mistake. First, we can't necessarily just go off this one memo, because we have a memo from the Republicans saying exactly the opposite. But there is still a good reason to believe the Democrats are on the right side of this, and that's negative partisanship. While the Republican polls say that voters are tired of the obsession with Trump, Democrat polls say that no, people want Trump to be impeached. And according to Pew, policies took a backseat to partisanship, which means you will encourage more voters to support you by talking about how the other side is bad, as opposed to actually addressing policy issues. But I have a couple words to explain why this is a mistake and why it will likely backfire. Bernie or bust. The far left and the moderate Democrats are not united as one party. So while they may think it makes more sense to oppose Trump and talk about how the orange man is bad, it may be more likely that people are looking for policy issues because the far left is not going to support a moderate. Well, let's read through the news and get started, and we'll break this down starting with the memo. Before we do, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There's a PayPal option, a crypto option, a physical address. But the best thing you can do, just share the story. I'm competing with CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, and other YouTubers. So if you think I do a good job, you can help me out by just sharing this video wherever you'd like. From Axios, Democrats' internal impeachment polling memo. They say while national support for an impeachment inquiry is growing, it's not a clear winner for Democrats in the most competitive House districts just yet. That's according to an internal impeachment polling memo obtained by Axios that was sent to House Democrats Thursday night. Why it matters. Their vulnerable members this cycle are the ones who helped the party win the House in 2018 because they were in districts that flipped from Republican or that Trump won in 2016. They're not in the clear yet, as an impeachment inquiry is only slightly favorable, 49-48. Two impeachment polls, a national survey and a battleground survey, were conducted by the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee's pollsters. Let's do this. Let's jump straight to the DCCC and why they think it makes more sense to be for impeachment as a moderate. They say the numbers do not back up Republicans' posture that impeachment worsens the political environment for House Democrats. National polling conducted by the DCCC finds voters back a Democrat who supports an impeachment investigation over a Republican who opposes an impeachment investigation by 11 points. Even in the 57 most competitive battleground districts, moving the inquiry forward is slightly favorable. Additionally, Democrats' lead in the generic ballot remains steady in national polling and in the battleground districts. Now, on its surface, I believe this makes sense, and I can cite negative partisanship and, partisanship being more important. According to Pew, November 29th, 2018, in midterm voting decisions, policies took a backseat to partisanship, and this was primarily true among Democrats. They say, asked an open-ended question about why they voted as they did, 36% of those who voted for the Democratic candidate in their district cited opposition to President Donald Trump, the Republican Party, or the GOP's candidate as the main reason for their vote. About the same share, 37%, said they were as motivated primarily by support for their own party's candidate. In contrast, 47% of Republican voters mentioned support for the GOP, Trump, or the Republican candidate in their district, while fewer mentioned opposition to the Democratic Party. So let's make one thing clear. This story isn't saying negative partisanship. They're saying Democrats are more motivated by not liking Republicans, and Republicans are more motivated by liking Republicans. It's kind of weird. But there's this big idea that in order to win in 2020, both in the House and the presidency, you need to explain why the other side is awful. And according to the Pew data, Democrats are more likely to be motivated by hating the other side. Here's the big deal, though. As I mentioned early on before we got into it, Bernie or bust, right? Far left Democrats and moderate Democrats do not like each other. Moderate Democrats may support a progressive, but progressives mostly won't support a moderate. That means if moderate Democrats believe they're going to win nationwide by supporting impeachment. It may be true because the far left also doesn't like Donald Trump as well. However, when a moderate Democrat is being put up, far left voters are going bust. They won't vote, right? So when Bernie Sanders ran, a lot of people said that it's either Bernie, the far left candidate, or nothing. Think about what happens in a moderate district then. It may be true that most voters would rather support a pro-impeachment candidate, but are you factoring in the divide between pro-impeachment far left and pro-impeachment moderate? I'd be willing to bet, considering this. Expanding the squad. U.S. liberals challenge moderate Democrats to move party left. They say Jessica Cisneros interned for U.S. Representative Henry Cuellar in 2014, and the congressman later wrote letters to help her get into law school. They're talking about the new squad members, the new far-left progressives. What do you think is going to happen in moderate districts that are divided between support for the president and people who want policy issues when it comes to a moderate candidate? Progressives and the far left go bust, don't vote. So here's what I can say. Here's the way I see it, right? I understand they're looking at this data and they're saying, aha, if we support impeachment, we'll win. But I'd be willing to bet even a moderate who supports impeachment won't get a far left vote. They're not going to care. But you also have to contend with the fact that we've got the Democrats saying one thing and the Republicans saying another. I'm going to have to say, when it comes down to it, based on the divide between the far left and the moderates, the Republicans are likely correct in their assessment, saying 2/3 of voters in NRCC target seats and 66% of voters in Republican-held battleground seats agree that Democrats in Congress are too obsessed with impeaching the president and should be working on issues they campaign on, such as funding our military, improving the nation's infrastructure, lowering the cost of prescription drugs, and caring for our nation's veteran. At the end of it, all I can really say is I look at the NRCC, I look at the DCCC, and they both can't be right. The Democrats think they're right, Republicans think they're right. But what I think the Democrats don't seem to understand as they're factoring in these issues is that they're facing a battle on two fronts, Republicans and the far left. So if they're going for a negative partisanship strategy based on what we saw in the midterms, I think they're going to lose out. And there's also another really important point to make as to why. They say in midterm voting decisions, policies took a backseat to partisanship, but guess what? It was the moderate Democrats that won in these districts. And they won because they campaigned on kitchen table issues, not orange man bad. They said they were going to bridge the divide. The far left did not do as well. So in the end, what can you expect? I think they're looking at the polls. They're looking at this concept of negative partisanship, and it's going to fail for them. Recently, the other day, I did a conversation with Sam Cedar. He's a YouTuber, podcaster, and he's on the left. And he told me that politically he believes impeachment is the right play because negative partisanship explains everything. At least that's what Politico says. What he was explaining is that it drives voter turnout. According to an assessment from Moody's Analytics, Trump is on his way to an easy win in 2020 if, according to their model, particularly if the economy holds up. But what they said, there are three models, and they show Trump winning in two of the three. One of them shows Democrats winning by 9 electoral votes, and that is with a historical voter turnout. How do you drive a historical voter turnout? Negative partisanship, right? At least that's what the mentality seems to be. If you can get enough people to support Trump is bad or orange man bad, they're going to come out and vote for anyone else. But again, I'll say it, Bernie or bust. Progressives will not vote for Biden, and many won't vote for Warren. Bernie just had this massive turnout in, I believe it was in New York. They say it was 25,000. Some people say it was, detractors say it was 10,000. It doesn't matter. Those people who support Bernie in 2016, 12 to 18% of Bernie's voters went to Trump. Many others didn't vote at all. So they're now conflating this idea that if they play this game, they're going to win. But I don't think that's the case. And I don't know what to tell you, because I think it's true that negative partisanship does play a role in voter turnout. Again, according to the Moody's analysis, if there's a historical voter turnout, the Democrats will win by 9 electoral votes. But please consider, it is likely a more moderate Democrat wins the primary, someone like Elizabeth Warren, and it's going to be Bernie voters who do not support her. It's entirely possible we see a Warren-Sanders ticket. But many people, I've talked to some left-wing activists who have straight up said they will not support Warren, who is an overt capitalist, perhaps if she's VP or something like that. But we'll see. We'll see. In the end, I think it's a huge gamble. I see that they have reason to believe it may be the case, but all I can really assess at the end is that they're making a huge mistake. You cannot assume moderate districts are going to play out the same way. The far left didn't do well in 2018. Squad members won. But according to The Economist, it was, I believe, 8 out of 79. And they're still moving forward. Moderates are seeking to primary challenge Democrats, and in AOC's district, moderates are seeking to primary the far left. So here's what we can assess. Democrats' civil war between progressives and moderates will bring 2020 Trump victory. Now, I want to stop for a second and say there's two different elections at play, the national level and the local level. Here's what I'm going to tell you. Moderate districts that went for Trump are not going to see a far left turnout. And the far left is not going to support these moderates. And the moderates are likely not going to support a party that turned their back on kitchen table issues in favor of orange man bad. I don't know what they're thinking. I mean, I could be wrong, right? Not the smartest person in the world. It's entirely possible I'm wrong. But I'll tell you this. All I can really do in this ridiculous mirror parallel reality is try and figure out who's more likely to be correct and why. And if the Democrats are saying they're going to win based on impeachment, and the Republicans are saying you're going to lose based on impeachment, I don't know what to pick. But I can tell you this. Bernie or bust is a huge factor, and the civil war on the Democrat side is a huge factor. And I think when it comes to moderate districts, you're going to have diehard Trump supporters saying Republican or nothing, and you're going to have moderates saying, I am sick and tired of the bickering, just solve these problems. I don't see moderates as being particularly energized by hating Trump. If the district went for Trump in the national election, why would they be Trump derangement syndrome type people who are going to go for this? Now, it's true. Let's do this. Let's jump over to impeachment news. Right now, we can see, real quick, pause. RCP doesn't like I'm using ad blocker. Sorry, guys. We can see here, the RCP average for Trump impeachment is at 49%. This is bad news for Trump. And opposition is 45%, meaning there are more people who support the impeachment and removal of the president than who oppose it. And we can also see this. Trump's approval rating has taken a decent dip at the start following the launch of the impeachment inquiry and Ukraine gate. Democrats might have something, going for them, with this negative partisanship strategy in winning 2020. But let's separate this for a second. Will they win the House back based on this? My opinion is no. I have to choose between Democrat and Republican polling. And I think based on the fact we're talking about far left versus moderates, you're more likely to see Republicans voting for a moderate candidate up until they start calling for impeachment. Now those Trump supporters are going to flip for the Republican. And you're not going to see a far left person in a moderate district win the primary. You see where this is going? But I also want to consider this. Look at where Trump was at the beginning of his presidency. Now, so when Trump first started, January 27th, he was at 44.2. And he's around the exact same place right now, 42. He's down 2 points. We're still a year out. We'll still see where this goes. It is possible that this negative partisanship play does have a negative impact on Trump. But all I can really do is this. I don't want to play favorites. I don't want to act like someone should, like we just should believe the Republicans. Their poll is better. But come on, man. We can jump back to the Moody's analytics. They're saying Trump is going to win. What should I base this on? They're going after impeachment. They're not focusing on issues. And again, issues play a big role in this, but the economy is good. And so one thing I mentioned in a segment I did on my second channel, you're going to hear a repeat for those on the podcast, is that regular people who aren't paying attention don't know anything about this, and that means one thing. They don't care about impeachment. I understand that support for impeachment is increasing, but we are diehard politicos. I am someone who reads political news every single day, and you're someone who follows me. But the average person is thinking about kitchen table issues, and they're not seeing that, okay? The Democrats are being told that focusing on impeachment gives them a leg up in their election. They do mention, after all of this, look at this. They say it's very convincing to talk about upholding the rule of law, focus on Trump doing the wrong thing, et cetera, et cetera. And then at the bottom, in smaller print, is here are some kitchen table issues that you can say. And they don't even give the Democrats polling on whether or not these talking points are effective. So I tell you this, we are probably in a bubble to a certain extent that we see this stuff and we're more tuned to it. The average person is saying, hey, I got a job. Hey, my pay went up. Hey, my paychecks are bigger. My taxes are down. My kids are going to school. My healthcare is cheaper. These are the things they're thinking about and looking at. And when you look at these Trump rallies and when you look at these Bernie rallies, what you're seeing are the diehards. And yes, that is important too. I just think when it comes down to it, you need to make sure you're communicating with Americans not just based on why they should hate Trump. I get the strategy, I really do, but in the end, I think it'll backfire. But let me know what you think. Am I wrong? Look, we're looking at two polls. They say two different things. So I don't know what to tell you. But I'm going to go ahead and say I think Democrats are making a big mistake. I think a large reason as to why moderates won. It can be reflected in a report done by CNN. They went to a Democrat stronghold and they saw a place that normally voted Democrat supporting Donald Trump. Locally, they support Democrats. Nationally, they support Trump. You need to consider that. The Democratic 2020 contenders are too far left. That's probably why Trump wins. Locally, moderates provide a safe alternative to Donald Trump. But going after impeachment is not talking about why they should be supported. So I'll reiterate for the last time before signing off. When they campaigned on unity, bridging the divide, and kitchen table issues, they won. It remains to be seen if this strategy will play out. But hey, they have their polls. They could be right. Let me know what you think in the comments below. We'll keep the conversation going. So next segment will be coming up at youtube.com/TimCastNews at 6 p.m. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all there.